all of you. First of all, I'm very sorry, dear participants. Today's webinar we are starting delay due to technical issue. So very sorry for that. Shri Kumarswami Mahavidyalaya Ausa District Latur is organized World Record Series 2. Today is 193rd day of the series, and the keynote speaker for today's session is with us Honorable Professor Dr. Ravinder Kaur, Madam. So first of all, I welcome to you, Madam, for the dais. I welcome the chief organizer of the series, colleagues from my college, and all those attendees who join the series regularly. The topic for today's presentation is design thinking, a user-centric approach. Now this topic is going to present, as I have mentioned, today's keynote speaker, Dr. Ravinder Kaur, Madam. She is serving at the Department of Electronics from Deen Dayal, Upadhyay College, University of Delhi. So with this brief introduction, now I request you, Madam, please start your presentation on today's topic. You are most welcome, Madam. Please continue.
Thank you so much. Now, before I actually start with the topic of today, which is design thinking, a human-centric approach, or a design thinking which empowers users, I would request all the participants to be very interactive. Only then it's going to be a fruitful topic or a fruitful session. And so please, can they all unmute themselves at that time, or they'll be writing in the chat box? Okay, so I'll request if all of you can actually unmute yourself and maybe switch on our videos so that we get connected. Can we switch on the videos? No, I think that's, I don't know. Anyway, so so I'll be starting with my topic, and I think the presentation is visible.
Yes, Madam. Yes.
Okay, so maybe I would like participants to interact, because since I'm showing my entire presentation is a slideshow mode, so I would not be able to see you. So I would request you to kindly interact with me by making your speakers on. So when I talk about design thinking innovations, I just want to know how many participants of the audience actually have heard of this term design thinking in terms of innovations, or generally as a problem solving technique. Or what comes to your mind when you say design thinking? It's a planning of something. Okay, when I say design, what comes to your mind? We oftenly use this word, design.
Madam, I think the image is seeing in mirror.
Image is saying mirror. No, forget about this. These have been picked by the Google. Just think about a design. Could you please repeat it again? External structure of anything. That means you're talking in terms of form of anything. Okay.
जो हम सोचते हैं,
हाँ,
हेलो मैम, जो हम सोचते हैं उसके बारे में हमारे दिमाग में जो छवि तैयार होती है, शायद वो डिजाइन है.
So that means our thoughts leading to something intangible से tangible की तरफ जा रहे हैं. हम कुछ सोचते हैं तो उसका हम डिजाइन बनाते हैं, जब एक्चुअल बनाते हैं तो intangible से tangible की तरफ जा रहे हैं. इसका कुछ फॉर्म होगा, कुछ फीचर्स होंगे, right? But do you think design thinking is also that? When I say design thinking, what do you perceive? आपको क्या लगता है कि डिजाइन थिंकिंग का क्या मतलब होगा?
Don't know, ma'am.
Okay, चलो let's start with this. I have divided my session in all these ways. I'll be talking briefly about what is the concept of design thinking, what does the standard definition says, the differences of, I'll just quickly touch upon these. How do we, on for what problems we normally use design thinking, what is the process, case studies, and question answers. I think it will be interacting throughout. So the first thing is, when we talk about what are the common problem in today's world, what comes to your mind? We all face problems every day. So what are the type of problems each one of us is facing in today's world?
In Pune, I'm facing problem of traffic.
Okay, very, very good. May I know your good name, please?
My name is Nilima.
Nilima says traffic jam, and that's very true. All of us face this problem of traffic jam. Anyone else?
Madam, problems of unemployment and bread and butter.
Earning livelihood.
Right, sir. My problem is also this.
Just a minute. Nilima said the problem is traffic jam. What I understand, one of you said the problem is bread and butter. Is that right? That was the problem which was said?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So that means earning livelihood. So earning livelihood is second problem. Any other problem? We all go through so many problems every day. Just think about what all problems you face on a daily life, whether personally, in a family, in a society, in your city. What are the common challenges you are facing? You, your kids, your students, your parents, your other family members, you as a community, we as a nation.
Madam.
We have two problems. One is bread and butter. That means unemployment, I can call it as broadly, and
Madam,
traffic jam.
problem of planning the time.
Time management.
Problem of planning the time.
Planning the child.
Time.
Okay. So let's have a look at this. I've just collected some pictures. So do we all agree on these are some of the common problems? You can see we have covered the traffic jam. We have covered unemployment. We have covered child labor. We have covered pollution, which is such a big problem, huge problem. We have covered now all our food items have so much of insecticides. We have covered still in rural India, we face the problem of open defecation. We have covered where education system is not what actually students want. It is not going in that way, howsoever we may try. Still, the women are not safe. There is exploitation of female gender. Still, there are so many kids who are not getting education. They are illiterate. And we all are troubled by ever increasing taxes we have to pay the government, and we are not left with anything worthwhile. And a simple virus could shake the entire world, and no one was ready for it. It was an unprecedented thing, and everything came to a standstill. So do you agree? We have obviously, we are talking of sustainability, environment, pollution. So do you all agree these are some of the challenges we all face in today's world?
Yes, madam. Yes.
So when we talk of all these problems, these are known as wicked problems. So when I say problems can broadly be divided in three types. One is a known problem. The other is a known unknown problem. Third is a unknown problem. Now a known problem is, let's say you are traveling, the tire got deflated. So you know the problem that the tire is deflated. So you'll go to the service center or somewhere where you can get the tire repaired. So it's a known problem, right? Or maybe let's say the aeroplane, the pilot was there and the weather conditions were bad. From autopilot mode, he would come to a manual mode because he knows the weather condition is bad. So it's a known problem. He knows this is a problem. He knows the solution. Second is known unknown problem. Let's say we all are so used to having phones. Let's say your phone hangs up, is not working, and suddenly it stops working. We all go through this, and then you just take out the chip, try to dry it, कि कहीं पानी तो नहीं चला गया. You try everything, but you are unable to solve the problem. But you can go to a vendor or a service station where you can get this phone repaired. So it's a known unknown problem. The problem you couldn't find, but you know that where to get it repaired. Now, unknown is when you don't know how to start with, where to start with. Either you have no data or you have so much of data, you don't know from where to start. Now, our cities have so much, despite having initiatives like Swachh Bharat. Still, when we go to our cities, we'll find heaps of, garbage here and there. We don't know where to start with. When we're talking of air pollution, we don't know where to start with. Let's say in a simple example, you open a good departmental store at the right location, you have right products inside, but still customers are not coming. You don't know what the customer need is. So it's an unknown problem, which is known as a wicked problem. And all these problems which we have seen, they're all wicked, complicated problems, and they can only be solved by a technique which is known as design thinking. As you all told me, you don't have an idea of design thinking. So just let me tell you, normally we say we have a problem and one solution. And the person would find this problem and he feels this is the best solution, he gives it. But design thinking is an approach where we find the solution in terms of the problems being faced by different people. We are being in terms of empathy. We are coming in their shoes. We are trying to find their problems. We are trying to find their pain points. And depending upon for whom I am trying to solve a problem, I first observe them. Let's say I'm solving a problem for children, then I would observe mothers, how they're handling children. Probably I will have a proper investigation of that. Or let's say if I'm going to solve a problem for old age people, I can't solve a problem for old age people till I don't actually stay with them, talk with them, or observe them. Sitting in my room, I cannot. So design thinking is a very user-centric approach. The main thing is we are being empathetic and we are depending upon the ethnography of the people, where they are staying, what is their job, what problems they can face. So it's an ethnographic observation. So we are not making a product or a system on our own, but it is all based on observations and what is best for any human being. And it is not it's not a set pattern. It is not only analytical, it is also intuitive. And it is a non-linear process. It's not a linear process that I'll follow certain systems and I know this is going to be the result. No, because we are tackling human emotions which tend to change. And for different people, they have different perspectives. So my human emotions, while handling the problems of humans, different humans, depending upon their requirement, they would have different needs. And since I'm making something for them, my process cannot be linear because emotions themselves are not linear, they are non-linear. And since I want to get the best solution for my users, initially we talked about that it's a user-centric approach. It is a human-centric approach. So every time I have to see whether I'm going in the right direction or not. So this process is very iterative. I keep on experimenting, and as per the proper definition by IDEO is a school at Stanford University. This is the School of Design Thinking. So Tim Brown is the person who gave design thinking approach, and he says design thinking is a human-centered approach towards innovation and having a designer's toolkit where the three main things are to be seen. One is desirability, that means what people want. Then is whether I have resources or the technology to give that solution. That means I talk in terms of feasibility, technology. And third, whether I'm going to be able to sustain that solution or I'm going to get profit in long run. So whether it will be successful or not, so that is known as viability. So we always talk in terms of three parameters, which will be again shown: desirability, feasibility, and viability. But the epicenter of this design thinking is empathy, because every time we say it's a human centric. So that means I am observing people. There may be some pain points which are very obvious, and there may be some pain points which are not so obvious. Even people don't realize there are unarticulated needs, but I'm converting, I'm observing them, and I'm giving them the solutions. So this is what I just talked about, the three things: uh, desirability, viability, feasibility. So desirable, and the sweet spot is the intersection of all these things. So when I say what is desired by people, and I can give the solution according to what resources I have got, which is, let's say, technology. And if it is also a good business model, it's sustainable, it can go, I have a vision of being able to take profit from it, that means it's viable, then the best option would be the design option, or the design thinking option is your experience innovation, which is the intersection of all desirability, feasibility, and viability. Now, how do we start this process? There are 4 W's which are very important. So the first, and you can see there's a question mark and then a dollar sign, and this entire figure has its own significance. We don't know what the problem is. As I said, we know broadly these are the areas. I know there's a problem of traffic jam. I know there's a problem of pollution. I know there's a problem of garbage not being disposed properly. There are so many problems, but I don't know what I can do and what direction I have to go. And I have to also solve a problem according to the users, add value to the system, but at the same time, I also want to have an economic contribution towards myself and towards my country. So the first is what is. So a lot of time we take in design thinking to define a problem. Rather, it's a solution oriented, but most of the time we give in defining the problem, because all of us know if we don't define the problem in the right manner, if the problem statement itself is not right, we won't be able to reach to the desired solution. So defining the problem is very important, and that is what is. What is the problem? That means we will maybe we'll have investigations from primary sources. I'll interview people. I'll observe people for whom I want to solve a problem. I'll ask them. I'll go through whatever is present in, let's say, in the literature in terms of whatever I can get on Google. So I try to see all options to define a problem. So first part, what tells you what is the problem. Then there comes what if. Once I have seen what is the problem, I have identified the problem. So that means I have a problem statement. Then I want to find out the solution. And for solution, I have different ideas. You can see this curve goes higher than all others. And this is on purpose, because when I say what if, then design thinking tells me that I am focusing on quantity of ideas. Every idea I'm just taking into account. Let's say, for example, you say ki garbage, food waste or the kitchen waste has to be disposed of properly. So, and the team is given this concept that you have to find a solution for this problem which people are facing. So every one of the team member would have different ideas to solve this problem. So, and no one is going to tell you, and that is known as brain writing. So whatever comes to my mind, whether it is feasible, viable or not, I don't bother. At this point, I'm only bothered about number. How many ideas are coming in the minds of the different team members who are trying to solve this problem? So that is why it is high. So it is a divergent. From divergent, we converge. Then we take a lens. Okay, we have so many solutions which have been told by the team members, but let's see which are viable or which are going to be feasible. So what wows comes at this point when we filter out these ideas by brainstorming and seeing that what wows. Once I have streamlined it, then I make a prototype and I test my prototype to know what actually works. And then I take feedback from my users or from my consumers for whom I have made the solution. And depending upon their feedback, I may have to go to what wow stage or what if stage, or maybe at the beginning only that I have not been able to make my problem statement right. So it's a topsy turvy, it's a roller coaster ride, but there is no set pattern. After, because everything is iterative, after your consumer tells you that this is the problem is still remaining, it is not solved properly, so maybe you'll have to ideate more, or maybe there would be a point when you actually have to redefine your problem. So it is a very iterative process. At this point, I would like to take a small pause and see if we all are on the same page. Am I able to connect to you all that whatever I'm speaking, are you getting it?
Yes.
Yes, madam, yes.
Okay, can I continue? Any questions till this point? Could you please repeat? My camera is not on. Okay, let me see. I don't know. I'm unable to switch on my camera. Initially, it was on. Okay. Thank you. I'm trying to now. I think, yeah. Is it okay?
Yes, madam, yes. Perfect now.
Okay, so we were here and we talked about 4 W's of design thinking, which is, what if, what wows, and what works. Now, this is also we call in terms of double diamond approach, and double diamond has a very logical thing behind it. And where we talked about 4 W's, here we talk about same line we talk of 4 D's. That is discover. So if you remember, I told you what is. That means I'm trying to identify the problem. And how do I identify the problem? By discovering, by seeing, by talking to people, an empathetic state. So that is discover. After discovering, obviously when I'm discovering, I am asking so many people. I have a broad area. Then I converge to, I discover so many people. And then I define. So you can see from a divergence to a convergence, I go. So this thing is showing me, just a moment, I'll just take a laser. So you can see, this is your discover. When you're discovering, it's a divergent. Then you explore and you define. So from divergent, you converge. So that means you are designing the right thing. You are identifying the problem rightly. As Einstein also says that if I'm given 60 minutes to solve a problem, I will take 55 minutes just to understand the problem. So this is a very crucial stage of discovering and defining. So this is given by this one diamond, where I go from divergence to convergence. So this is one diamond. So this is defining the problem. You can see this is insight into the problem, and then you give a problem statement, that is scope down the focus, and this is my solution. Once I design the right thing, I have to design the things rightly, which is my solution base. So this is my ideation. That means I will ideate. When I ideate, I'm going towards quantity. I would have a number of quantities, but then I will find out what wows and make a prototype, and I will converge again. So that means I will develop and finally deliver. And this is again a very iterative process. This will keep on repeating depending upon what your users give you your feedback on a prototype, because prototype is a rough working model you will make to get the feedback from your users. So Stanford, and this is very important, Stanford defines your thinking process in these 5 models. So first is when we say we have to identify the problem by observing people, that is known as empathize. As I told you, the baseline of design thinking is empathy with your users. So how will you empathize? You will ask people, you will shadow, that means you will observe what is their lifestyle, what is their problem. You will try to understand, and you will not be non-judgmental. You would not try to find out problems from your point of view, but you will try to find out their needs, their problems from their point of view, from their perspective. So this is your first step of empathizing. Then the next step is, once you have observed them, once you have collected your information, now you have to define your problem, as I told you. So this defining is done, which will depending upon what you got in these interviews, what decisions you made, what are the challenges they are facing. So depending upon that, you will define your problem. Then comes your divergent phase of ideating, where quantity is very important. So first you have quantity, then from divergent you will converge by brainstorming. Then you will make a prototype, which is a working model, which will tell you whether you are in the right direction or not. Once you have a prototype, the most important is testing again. You will test with your users what is working. There are different, again, it's a complete session for each. In fact, at Delhi University, right now I am conducting this, where each block is 1 full day session, or even you can have a 1 week session on each block. So each block is very important. So this is your Stanford model for design thinking process. Now, just to again reaffirm, I have shown it in a different manner. You can see empathizing, defining, ideating, prototype, and test. And I just used it to tell you design thinking could be as simple as that. It may be as complex, maybe a tech solution, and it could be as simple as that. Just it's an unarticulated need. It's not that people don't have a chair, but we normally have a tendency of rocking the chair. But this was simply observed by someone that when we rock the chair, we tend to fall down. So why not, when we give a certain angle, it will give you a support. It just opens on its own and it gives you a support. So this is the beauty of design thinking, where it either sees where is the need, or it sees the unarticulated needs and gives you the desired solution. Now I'm going to give you very interesting use cases, and I hope you all will appreciate. So after each use case, please tell me how you found this use case. So let's start with the first one. Okay, what can you see here? What do you think this is? Okay, so this is an MRI, imaging or a scanning machine. Does it look different to you? Okay. Does anyone know about this?
No.
Okay.
It
So
seems
this
to be
is
MRI machine.
Yes, did anyone say something?
Yeah, myself, Dr. Shawan Shukla. It looks like a MRI machine.
Yeah. Have you heard about such a MRI machine?
No, not at all. But the patient would like to have such kind of machines because otherwise it is a kind of fear and terror.
I'll tell you a story behind it. It will take only 5 minutes. So GE Healthcare, the famous engineer Dayal, he was the person who designed the MRI machine. First MRI machine. I'm not talking of this machine. The MRI machine, which was the massive success as far as diagnostic goes. And he was very happy with his design, that the MRI machine I have designed is going to take all the scans, whichever is required, and doctors will be able to diagnose the problems. So he goes to the hospital where the machines were installed, and he is expecting people are going to really applaud him. The doctors are going to tell him, "You've done a wonderful job. It was really required." And he asks the nurse, "How do you like the design? How do you find the design? This is the MRI machine, which the latest with all the facilities. And how are you finding it?" So the nurse gives a very non-committal answer and says, "It's okay, it's fine." And he is slightly disappointed because he was expecting a lot of appreciation. And then he asks the attendant person the same, and he says, "It's okay." And then suddenly what he sees, which gives birth to this type of a thing, he sees a young couple with a child of maybe, let's say, 8 to 9 years old. They were holding the hand. The child was holding hands of both the parents, and the child was crying, and the parents were trying to soothe the child, saying, "It's okay, it's not going to take much time, and we are there with you. Don't worry, everything is going to be okay." And the child is continuously crying and saying, I'm not going. And then suddenly the nurse comes, and the child is trying to the nurse takes the child, and the child starts crying even more. Parents are almost on the verge of tears. And then they ask the child, the nurse makes the child lie down in the MRI machine. But because the child is so disturbed and sobbing, finally the nurse has to sedate the child so that all examination, he can go inside the MRI machine and the investigations can be done. Now, when he sees this, he's very surprised. He was, in fact, he had a guilt feeling, and he was ashamed that I was so happy that I have made the best machine. But look here, kids, people are crying because they have to go to this machine. So he goes back to Stanford School, meets this IDEO team of design thinkers, and asks them and takes a break and investigates and tries to think from the point of view of kids. And he comes up with this series, which is known as Adventure Series, and has different types like this. And this is known as Pirate's Ship. And this pirate ship is exactly like a pirate ship. Even the kids, when they move onto it, it has a wooden plank, just like any ship would have a wooden plank. The walls, and he gave a different concept. It was painted like a ship. All the pirates were there. Even so much so, the uniform of nurses also was given in the type of as if they are part of this crew of the ship. The walls were like that. So it was an adventure series. So when the kids would come, they were told by the attendants that now it's going to be a game. It's an adventure series. You're going to enter this pirate ship. You will hear loud sounds, which is when the pirates come. Now it's a game. So they changed that entire experience for the kids. And what it was observed was that the rate of sedation, it came down by 60 to 80% in few months. So this is the power of design thinking. What we may feel the best may not be the best for everyone, because depending upon everyone's requirement, things need to change. And that is the power of design thinking. Can you appreciate this?
Yes, ma'am.
And so much so that they faced only one problem. Now kids would ask, when can we go to Adventure Island again? When can we go to that pirate ship? So from a situation where the kids were crying, they had to be sedated, he came to a solution where kids didn't fear going into this machine, and it was more of a experience for them. So this is the magic he created using design thinking. Your voice is not clear. Could you please repeat? Okay. Now the next comes from our own country. How many of you are aware of this? You have seen this picture, or you know about life-saving dogs. It is also known as Jeevan Rakshak Bindi. This is from our own country. How much time do I have? Because I have certain examples, and every example has a story attached to it. So this is actually a person who came up with this idea needs a big round of applause. This is a life-saving dot. It was observed in rural India, many Adivasi and rural ladies, females, during their pregnancy time or after giving birth to a child, they faced with an issue of having breast cancer, uterus cancer, and it was seen in so many ladies, and they found that either pregnant ladies would die, or after giving birth they would have all these complexities, especially in rural India. So the entire team investigated, and they found that this is happening because of the deficiency of a simple thing, which is iodine. We can't even imagine, but that's a fact, that they were facing this problem because of the deficiency of iodine. So a designer team went there, they observed. So the first was obviously to give them supplements, give them iron supplements. So what they found was that since they were rural, they came from a rural background, they were not well conversant with taking English medicines. So they would not like to take English medicines, because they were always English medicines are going to give you more complexity. So they had, or even if they agreed to take that supplements, they would forget to take supplements, because throughout the day they would be in the fields working hard. So they would not have the time, or they would not remember to take this supplement. So a design team, the person who actually from Singapore, a Grey Group, which is a philanthropist group, and hats off to this Neil Basant Medical Foundation and Research Center. They came up with this bindi. They knew, since they are all Indian women, have this culture of putting up a bindi. So they made an iodine patch. At the back of the bindi was the iodine, which could be absorbed in the body, and each bindi had sufficient amount of iodine which was required on a daily basis. So when they started with this life-saving dots, they found that the mortality rate came down so much that it was a complete success, and it was a magical thing that now obviously all ladies would put bindis, and this bindi would give them the iodine dose. So this is the power of design thinking, coming to solutions in a manner which are required by the people, and it took many iterations to them. It took many iterations. Even in the previous case, it took many iterations. So it is a non-linear iterative process, but it is, the baseline is empathy, that we are trying to solve a problem in such a manner that our user gets benefited and we're adding value to the system. So can you appreciate this life-saving dots? It's marvelous. For me, it's one of the most marvelous examples of design thinking. Then next comes, again, it's, how many of you know about this clean team of Ghana? Have you heard about it? So, as we know, in underdeveloped countries and even rural part of developed countries, suburban part, open defecation or limited toilet facility is very common. So in Ghana, there was either a public toilet and people would be in long queues, trying to go for the toilet, and obviously there would be spread of diseases because of all this problem. So IDEO team came with this, clean team, they came with this along with Unilever, a portable toilet which could be installed. They installed it free of cost in the houses and would take charges on a subscription basis to take the waste, maybe once in 3 days or once in 5 days, depending upon how much usage was there. And there was a biodigester chemical, so that everything was converted into a liquid and without any smell. And after a certain amount of time, they would take that cartridge, take it back, and that waste is used to generate either manure or electricity. And this has actually brought a disruptive type of innovation in Ghana, and now many countries are using this portable toilets, which is a part of a clean team. And we know this is a valid problem in rural areas and suburban areas. So this is again the design. Everything took many iterations. You can see it in Google. Full story is there, and you will be amazed as to how people work in terms of design thinking. Can you see what is this? Can you think of what are they actually?
Water.
Water. What are they doing? Anyone? Any guess? What you are seeing? So what you are seeing as clean bottles, they are actually plastic bottle bulbs, and they are lighting the entire rural Bombay area now. So these are the plastic bottles which are filled with water and a bleaching agent so that it becomes a clear water, and half of this is upwards, half of this goes inside the roof, a tin roof of the rural parts. And when the light is in the sun during the daytime, when the sunlight shines by the simple principles of refraction, it starts glowing. And can you believe it? Each bottle is just like a 60-watt incandescent lamp, without spending any money, without spending anything. But the only problem to begin with was they could give light only during the daytime because of the sun. But later on, again, an iteration was done. The caps were used of photosensitive material, the solar cells, so that it can absorb the light during the daytime, the cap. And so the entire bottle could be used as a bulb, incandescent bulb of 50 to 60 watts. And this was first used in Philippines. The cost of making is very less, but it lit the entire Philippines, although it was invented in Brazil by Alfredo Moser. And let me tell you, IT Bombay. So the students are doing the same project, and most of the rural part of Bombay is using these solar bottle. These are nothing but a plastic bottle with water, a bleaching agent, and they are being used in incandescent lamps, and each bottle could give you as much light as a 60-watt bulb gives you. So this is the power of design thinking. Now, hats off to Shobha Murthy. What I'm going to show you is again a very amazing thing. You'll be amazed to see how design thinking. Now, when we were talking of disposing of our kitchen waste, this was one problem. Again, we get things in cartons, right? So many things come in cartons, which is actually a waste. And founder of Aram, they came with this portable bag come a table for the kids of rural India who had to sit on the floor on a dari. You can see in interiors of villages, kids still sit on the ground. They bend their neck and write. So when they're bending their neck, their entire spine is also bent. So this was seen, this was observed as a part of empathy. And the solution was given in these cardboard boxes, which were made of the cartons. And this designers converted them in such a manner that these bags can hold the books, and when the kids are sitting on the floor, it acts like a table. So it's a portable study table come school bag, which is so economical and is serving the purpose. Isn't it great? And that is known as Aram Help Desk. How many of you are amazed to see this?
Madam, wonderful examples you're giving. Very appropriate and wonderful examples. Thank you.
And there are many examples like this. Now, this is again a very interesting case, which was done by, again, IDEO School of Thinking, Stanford. And Naganand Murthy and Rahul Pennikar, they were two Indians who were a part of that. And in one of their design thinking class, they had to take a project. And the project they took was that for kids who are underweight or you have a premature delivery, they have to be kept in incubators. But what happens in rural or in places where you can't afford an incubator? They actually went to Nepal, where the temperature is very low, where you have cold, so that they can observe how it happens. And after many iterations, again you can see it on Google, the entire thing. It's known as Embrace Incubator. They came up with this idea of a sleeping bag like a thing, which has a gel-based pack that gives heat for at least 5 to 6 hours, and it could be given to dispensaries. It was very cost effective, and this is known as Embrace Incubator, which saved the lives of thousands and thousands of infants in rural India. And this is known as Embrace Incubator because it gives heat, warmth to the baby the same way it is in the womb or it is in the embrace of a mother. So they cut the cost so much and they made it so convenient to be used at dispensaries or even at homes that the mortality rate of infants really came down. So this is Embrace Incubator. The list goes on, but since I have limited time, so maybe some other time we'll share more examples. So this is, and again, this is nothing but we have everything, you have stories behind it. And you would be amazed to see, I don't know how many of you know about this initiative of Keep the Change. Has anyone heard about this initiative of Bank of America? So what, do I have 5 minutes to share this story?
Yes, madam, please.
In case they didn't keep the change. So normally what happens is they observed that the entire finances was managed by ladies, and they found that they make a budget and they always round off the budget. Okay, for groceries, let's say, obviously it was in New York, say, let's say $100 is kept for, I'm just giving you random numbers, $100 is kept for groceries. So what would happen is if they were spending $98, they would just round off their budget to $100. So what they did was Bank of America came with a very interesting and design thinking solution that whatever, when they're using their credit cards or the debit cards, especially they use more of credit cards, that whatever the cost is, let's say they spend $8.40. So $1.60 would directly go to the bank. So keep the change. So normally when, let's say in India, we have, the person doesn't have 5 rupees, he would give you a small chocolate or he would give you something. So although that amount is very less, but if it keeps on adding in your savings continuously, whenever you are using, Because when you are spending, let's say you have a 500 rupees note and you use 460, and 40 rupees directly goes to your bank. And every time these transactions are going, they just round off the number, and that rounding off is done in the keep the change. And then what they did was, the first 3 times, whatever amount was saved, the bank also offered the same amount. And this is how they found that people were not in US, the people were not saving, not so used to saving, they would just spend. But by giving this initiative of keep the change, they found that the number of savings increased and the number of account holders in their bank really raised very sharply, very high. So again, a very interesting example. You can see it on Google, Bank of America. Airbnb, we know. PillPack is again very interesting. Stanford, Apple, Coca-Cola. A Coca-Cola freestyle machine, they give you many flavors, and automatically you can mix and match. You can make your own. So this is there in US. Procter & Gamble. So all these established enterprises use the technique of design thinking. And let me tell you, nowadays there's no enterprise which is not using design thinking. Every one of them are using design thinking. So on this, I'll just stop here. So I would only request each one of you to be an empathetic observer, because empathy is the baseline. And how would you be able to find out the problems till you are not observant, till you are not observing it? And you'll have to think properly, critically, to actually come out to a problem statement. And then once you have to have a problem statement, you have to ideate properly. So you have to be action oriented and ready to experiment. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, madam, for the wonderful presentation. Now I request all the participants, if you have any query regarding the topic, please come ahead. Dear participants.
So Dr. Swanan Shukla has raised her hand.
Good evening, Dr. Bedkar sir, Prashant sir, and good evening, ma'am, Professor ma'am. Wonderful explanation today you have done, and it is regarding designing. Designing requires more creativity and imaginations, and apart from that is, very important thing is thinking the audience or the people who are going to utilize those services. I think that matters a lot. What I can get from your this presentation, ma'am, very wonderful presentation. And definitely, yes, we have to, if we are having business, we have to attract our customers and other people. So I remember, very small thing like when the small babies, kids are there, they don't drink milk. But if they are having very colorful cup or something like that, they accept easily. So from the childhood, we are having that knowledge of designing. And yes, definitely, we are shown MRI machine. That is also wonderful. I belongs to medical field, so I could recognize easily. But such a wonderful instrument, if it is there like this, people would like to go over there. Otherwise, it is a kind of terror, going under the MRI machine and listening those sounds. So I think if you can change little that music into our real melody music also, people will like to go over there. Otherwise, it is a kind of terror. Patient is already suffering and we are giving a kind of trouble. But I think this kind of designs will be soothing, for the patients. Wonderful. But sometimes, we may fail in understanding the feelings of the people, the cars and the bikes, what people are making nowadays, every day they are changing their models. Even one company was, one model, they keep changing it because the new audience, new customers they want. So they try to find out sometimes it may fails very badly because they maybe what I understood that they must have failed to understand the feelings and of the people. That trade we have to catch, I think. And if that trade is there, definitely, yes, definitely designing is really wonderful. Just assume the world without designs, how it will be.
Yes.
So wonderful explanation and wonderful presentation you have done, madam. Yes, definitely one should come with a very different idea. Is there any research paper is there, ma'am, on this designing?
There
and
many, and in fact, I would ask you to go through a very famous case study again of our own country, Dr. Arvind Eye Center. I think most of you would be knowing.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he's giving an excellent example of design thinking, how he's making, he's creating a value in the system by giving cataract surgeries in camps. And again, the model is very nice, that if you have money, you can give as much, or you can give donations. If you don't have money, and if you can give only 50%, if you don't even have any money, you are not required to give. So the entire model he has done is again a very significant example of design thinking.
Yeah, and you have shown one that Kaur, that
That's a clean team.
Yeah, that is also wonderful because recently I visited one temple and over there I could see those bio toilets, and it was such a wonderful the feeling came like we are in abroad or some other place. So I think that designing really attract the mind of people, and the design is one of the part of our life, integral part of our life. Thank you, madam, for your great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
So thank you, Honorable Dr. Swami Shukla, sir. Is anybody there would like to ask? Okay, then thanks, Dr. Swami Shukla, sir. Now I request the chief organizer of the series, the principal of Shri Kumarswami Mahavidyalaya, Ausa, Honorable M. Ambedkar, sir. Sir, please come ahead and have some words for today's session. So thank you very much, sir. Now I move towards the vote of thanks. Shri Kumarswami Mahavidyalaya, Ausa District, Latur, organized World Record Series 2. Today we have completed 193rd session of the series, and the keynote speaker for today's session were with us, Honorable Ravinder Kaur, Madam. And she expressed her view about the topic, design thinking, a user-centric approach. Ma'am have explained this term very sincerely, clearly, in details, where she explained what is meant by the design thinking, the different stages of design thinking, the main goal of design thinking, and what is design thinking in real life, giving the different examples like 4 W's, then 4 D's. Now these are the examples Madam have explained in details. So I'm very, very thankful to you, Madam, even though you are not on the screen, but your presentation was very nice. So I extend sincere thanks towards you. Then I thanks to the chief organizer of the series, Honorable Principal M. Ambedkar, sir, and thanks the colleagues from my college, Dr. Anita Dole, Madam, Dr. Sanjay Kale, sir, Honorable Dr. Prakash Karad, sir, Praveen Woodge, sir, and all others. Special thanks to our daily participants, Dr. Swanand Shukla sir, who always actively participates in the discussion session. So thanks to you, sir, and heartily thanks all those dear participants on the screen, Dr. Harendra sir, and Sonu Kumar sir, and all others. So thanks a lot to you all. Now fill the feedback link which is given in the chat box. So with the kind permission of the chief organizer, I declare that today's session is over. Thanks a lot once again to you all. Please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I never forget Dr. on the participant series, but I take the name of the Honorable Dr. Kail sir.